Welcome to the Liberating Humanity podcast. Any questions before everybody else comes in?
I have a crazy question, but did Tim Fowler kill that man?
There was some liberty that was put into the film. Yeah, no, that was, put it this way, all the bad guys are really bad guys. All the heroes in the movie, we had to take about 20, 30 different heroes and bring them all into a smaller cast. And we took multiple rescue missions and put them all into the same one. Vampiro is we actually called him Batman, and he was not involved in the Colombia rescue at all. But his story and how he found the children and some other rescues were relevant. And so the producers wanted to have him in there. The jungle scene was a completely different country. That was in Haiti. The backstory on that, so in real life, Princess, you saw her as Rocio on there, she was there at that party. She was rescued. And I can tell you that story as well. But there were so many good stories of the rescue missions that we did that we needed to bring a lot of them into one story. And I'll say this, the moment that changed my life forever was actually at that party. They had brought all the children, and that little girl, now let me back up about 2 weeks. When Tim had called me and asked me to come down to Colombia, he called me and he said, Paul, I think we can rescue all these children. And I said, well, how much do you need? And he said, I'd need you. Can you be in Colombia in 2 days? I went down and we met with the traffickers. And we and during the middle of this meeting, one of the traffickers comes forward, and he was so excited I was willing to help fund his resort. And in real life, the idea for the resort actually came from the traffickers. These guys, one of them had an island that he had inherited from his mother. And he was trafficking children, and he had access to all these other children. And he wanted to develop a child brothel sex resort. And he needed about $8 million to build it out. And he believed that he could make $10+ million a year on this. Now, the female trafficker, she was a beauty queen down there. You can look her up online. She was very much involved. She was running a fake modeling agency that she went to towns in Latin America and told the parents, oh, your daughter's too pretty to be working in the field. She should be a model. And she was there together with these other traffickers the first time that I went in. And I'm sitting there together with some former CIA guys and Tim and some others that are there at this restaurant. And halfway through the meeting, one of the traffickers leans forward and he goes, Pablo, I have a gift for you. And I said, really, what's your gift? And he hands me his phone, and there's a picture of that little girl. She was 11. He said, this is Princess. She's still a virgin. She's 11 years old. And he started talking about these horrific things I could do to this little girl. And there's something he said made me realize he had more than her. I said, Fuego, I said, you have more virgins? And he goes, oh yeah, I have 3 or 4 more. I said, you have to bring those to the party as well. He goes, no, those virgins, they're too expensive. Too expensive. We're already paying $25,000 for this party. We're paying $500 per child for a minimum of 50 children just for 2 hours in the afternoon. And he goes, Jefe, you already paid $25,000. You want to F of virgins? These other ones, it's going to cost you maybe $2,000, maybe $5,000 for that little one. It's going to cost you maybe $10,000 more. And I was so mad. He's talking about these children like they're commodities. And I've got my nice shirt on. I've got a nice watch on. I'm posing as this guy who can fund this deal for him. And I put my hands on my chest and I said, you don't think I can afford an extra $10,000? He said, oh, no, Jefe, no. I said, I want every one of those virgins at my party. And I said, they damn well better be virgins when they get there. They're not for you. They're for me and my guys. He goes, oh, yeah, Jefe, I understand. This stupid smile on his face. 2 weeks later, we go back in. We meet with the U.S. Embassy, the Colombian federal agents. They provided all those agents, 40 agents. They had a bunch of, 4 of them were our maids, 4 of them were our waiters, 4 of them were our cooks. They're not very good cooks, but they're armed, right? In fact, in the operation, they almost blew the operation. We're sitting there with the traffickers out there, and these guys showed up with 54 children. Almost every one of them were under the age of 16 years old. Some of them were trafficked from other countries. And we put the children in a separate place so that they're already traumatized enough. We don't want them seeing the guns and the money changing hands and everything else. And we're sitting there at this table, and the undercover agents that are there supposing to be our cooks and our waiters bring out this block of cheese, like this big block of cheese. No knife, no fork, no plates, nothing. We're like, well, you just take chunks off of it, you know? We're like, these are crappy waiters. So we're like, okay. So, and a couple other things that happen in the middle, which we couldn't include because we can't include everything in the movie. We're sitting there negotiating with the traffickers. The children are in the other area. There's like a kind of a room about the size of this theater, and it's a grass hut type of a thing over the top. That's the inside of the house. There's hammocks and stuff in there. The children are in there, and we're out at this table, and we're negotiating this deal with them. And the reason I was there is we told them, listen, I'm willing to fund your resort, this Jeffrey Epstein island that you want to build out, under one condition. We're going to have a party. You bring enough kids. If you can prove to me that you already have the children that I want that to make that successful, then I'll fund it. And so we're there, and when we have undercover cameras that are filming everything that's going on, so that the children never have to stand trial. They never have to witness anything in a court. They're done. There's no more trauma for these kids. And so we have these cameras that are set up, and we have to have a really dark conversation with these traffickers, because we don't want them later to say, oh, I thought they were coming for a pool party or whatever else. So we have to ask them, okay, that little girl, who brought her? Who brought this one? Well, how old is she? How old is that little boy? What are they willing to do? This little 11-year-old boy, who we believe I think he was kidnapped from Haiti, they gave him cocaine that morning because he was so scared it was going to hurt. What kind of effed up monster thinks that that's attractive? You know? And we're sitting there, and one of the traffickers gets up, and he goes, Pablo, I have to show you the gifts that I brought you. And he goes in the house where the children were. And he's in there for 5-8 minutes, and you can start hearing a couple of the children were crying. They were so scared. 10 minutes later, he comes out. And he has 4 of the 54 children. He brought out 4 virgins, scared to death. 3 little girls, 1 little boy, the little boy that they got from Haiti. And one of those little girls was this little 11-year-old, the same one that he showed me on a picture 2 weeks before. And I'm sitting on a chair, and they bring her in front of me, and she's standing straight in front of me. Her standing up wasn't much taller than I was sitting down. And I could see the fear in her eyes. They had put makeup on her, and she had been crying, so the makeup was running. And I took her little hands, and I said, ¿Cómo se llama? What's your name? She didn't know her name. I'm sure she did, but she was trying to figure out what she should say. I'm sure her real name wasn't Princess. And I looked at her eyes. This was the defining moment of my life. Now understand, before this time, I wasn't Paul Hutchinson. I was Paul effing Hutchinson, right? I built a multi-billion-dollar company. I can have these big parties. And yes, I was making a difference. I had charity things that I was donating. But this moment changed everything. Because I was sitting there on this chair, looking at this little girl in her eyes. She was looking at me like I was going to defile her. And everything in me wanted to say, no, it's not going to happen. You're going to see your parents again. And I couldn't say that. I said, está bien, it's okay. And we had him go back in the house because we needed to keep negotiating with the traffickers, right? And wait for the signal. Now, once we had all the information put together for the sting, once we had asked them all the questions, then we're supposed to order tequila. Once we ordered tequila, then the federal agents who are acting as our waiters, they go back in the kitchen area and they radio in, and boom, all of the agents were supposed to come and rush the island and arrest everybody. And so we ordered tequila. It was supposed to be 2 to 4 minutes before we were all surrounded. We ordered tequila. Hey, party starts. 2 to 4 minutes, nothing happens. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, 25, 30. So it was 45 minutes later before the agents actually stormed. And what had happened, we found out later that the lady who was in charge of the Child Protective Services, she like slept through her alarm or something, and she wouldn't let the boats go and do the raid without her there. I mean, we didn't know this though. We were sitting there going, oh, what do we do, right? What do we do? Now, at this point, I thought, I believe that it was divine intervention. Now, I'm nothing special. I was a rich business guy, right? But I had negotiated a whole bunch of business contracts. And so when 5 minutes go by and the traffickers get up and they say, okay, it's time to go party. I'm going to go get the children and you go get the cocaine is what the traffickers are saying. And we're like, sure, no, the party can't start, you know? Where's the agents? Why isn't anybody storming the party? And I said, you know what, guys? Hold on. You just proved to me that you could provide what you said you could provide for my party. Now I'm willing to fund your project. So why don't we do this? You bring out the cocaine, you bring out the girls, I'm going to be effed up for the next few days, and then we'll have to find a time to get together. We're all here right now. Bring me a piece of paper. And they bring out a piece of paper and a pen, and I said, okay, let's talk about this. And I start drawing out a business plan with these guys. Now, this was the darkest business plan you can imagine. In fact, Sean Reyes, our Attorney General, this was right before he actually made office into AG. He was standing right behind me. He was acting as my bodyguard. We called him La Sombra, with the shadow. You ask Sean about this conversation, he will say this, because my Spanish sucked. It kind of still sucks. But he was acting as a translator, and he said that was the darkest conversation I've ever had to translate, because we're sitting there, and I asked him, I said, okay, let's draw out this thing. I said, now when your business plan involves children, the conversation gets really dark. And I said, okay, well, tell me how much it costs to bring in a little Colombian girl. Well, it's about $2,000, maybe $5,000, depending how young she is. What does it cost to bring in a little blonde American girl? Well, it costs us about $25,000, but we can make that money back in less than 2 weeks. And then I said, okay, you bring in these children, and you're charging me between $2,000 and $5,000 for the virgins that are here. So, you know, I'm now calculating the cash flow coming in with them. I said, no. So after you rent them out the first time, then how much does it go down? And Miss Cartagena, that female bitch, she leans forward and she says, oh no. She said, we can rent them out as a virgin more than once. I said, what? She says, it's about $200 for an operation to sew back their hymen. I thought, oh, holy crap. This is really happening out there. It was happening right there in front of my face. This is dark, right? Now, here's the question. Where is the demand coming from? Okay, so after that rescue mission, I turned to Sean and I said, bro, I've spent my whole life making rich people richer. I'm done with that lifestyle. I want to make a difference. I was going to buy a Lamborghini that spring. I said, I will never own a supercar. I'm going to write you the check instead. This is my passion. We're going to fix this problem. I'm going to eradicate child trafficking. And he said to me, Paul, yes, the checks are going to help big time. He said, but here's the problem. The majority of demand for this horrible act in second and third world countries comes from wealthy, well-connected, well-spoken businessmen who look and talk and dress like you. He said, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to wear a $4,000 suit and a $50,000 watch and negotiate a multi-million-dollar deal. And that's what the traffickers are looking for. Guys like Jeffrey Epstein and their goons that are coming down. He said, and I don't know of any successful business owners who's had the training that you've had. He said, if you're willing to be the bait, I'll change your whole life. So I dedicated the last 10 years. I've led 70 undercover rescue missions in 15 countries. We had a deal at the end of that one that somebody needed to be the face, because this is how you fix the problem, right? Back at the time of Abraham Lincoln, it wasn't the guys rescuing the slaves. It was Harriet Beecher Stowe writing Uncle Tom's Cabin. We knew that somebody needed to be the face, but it was super dangerous for Tim to keep doing the deep cover work if he was going to be on CNN, ABC. And so we put together a team, and I mean a team of ex-Navy SEALs and Green Berets that continued to go out time after time after time after time and found the youngest children and the worst traffickers in every single country that we went into. Here's the problem. 10 years ago, I looked at the numbers, and there was roughly 8 million children being sold for child sex services. Average age of a child being brought into it was 12 years old. And so I thought, we're going to freaking fix this. You know, I'm going to put all my resources, all my energy, all my contacts, whatever we need to do to make this happen. And I brought in some really awesome people to support this. Some unsung heroes that a lot of these stories were made from that still don't have their faces known because they're still doing undercover work. I led my last undercover rescue mission the end of last year. We went into Ecuador and we rescued a bunch of kids. We took down 6 different trafficking rings. And I took a look at the numbers, and I realized that there were more children being sold now than there were 10 years ago. Roughly 10 million, 2 million more than there were when we started. And I'm like, if my goal is to help these guys eradicate child trafficking, I'm not doing a very good job. And I took a step back and thought, well, what do we need to do? How do we really fix this? How do we fix this problem? And I realized that every single time we went in undercover and we pulled 20 children out of hell, yes, it made a powerful, positive impact in the lives of those children. But if not enough was being done to fix the demand, then 20 more children were being sucked in to fill it. So we had to start taking down pedophiles again. And every single pedophile that we took down represented about 100 children that he would abuse. But even there, the numbers were growing. So I took a step back and thought, okay, what if that's my life mission? What needs to happen? We've got to figure out how to fix the demand side. And for a long time, I thought that the demand was coming from hardcore pornography usage, right? People get addicted, then they want something harder to have that same fix, some drug type of a fix. And for some of them, harder is a little bit, is more like rape videos, horrible stuff, or for some of them, harder is a little bit younger, Pretty soon they're fantasizing about something they wouldn't have even thought was attractive 5 years ago. And so I put a lot of effort into anti-pornography, how can help people. Now realize this, everybody in this room, well, maybe not everybody, but almost everybody in this room has seen, well, this is all the guys, has seen pornography. Just because you've seen pornography doesn't mean you're going to become a pedophile, right? But every single one of these guys that we arrested started out with a hardcore addiction that led to something harder. And so I thought, oh, well, let's fight that. And then I realized that even that is a symptom. It's a symptom of a deeper problem. This is something that's going to require a global consciousness change in how we see ourselves and other people. Here's what the real numbers are. Yes, 10 million children is a big number, but it's tiny compared to where it's coming from. Literally 1 in every 4 women in this room were a victim of sexual violence as a child. 40% of all women have been a victim at some point. Now, with men, it's a little bit less. It's about 20%. But even in that case, 1 out of every 4 of them, roughly 200 million men in this world, it was under the age of 10 years old, and most of them in their own homes. So here's what's happening. Somebody doesn't grow up and decide that they're going to go down there and be carne, right? They don't decide that they're going to go down there and go be with a 12-year-old in Colombia. What happens is it starts out with massive trauma as a child that is unresolved. Now, realize this. 2/3 of everybody who has dealt with trauma as a child, 2/3 of them, God bless them, they're able to grow up and shed that and live a good life and be a good husband and be a good father, be a good mother, be a good uncle. But 1 out of every 3 end up becoming contact offenders themselves. And so my goal and all of us have gone different directions. Right? Tim's running with Operation Underground Railroad. Dave is running with Lantern. I mean, I have hundreds of different guys over the last 10 years that have worked with us, that they've gone and started working their own foundations. Our focus with the Child Liberation Foundation for the last 8 years has been to rescue a 10-year-old from the clutches of a trafficker in Latin America. We've now realized that our goal is to also rescue the 10-year-old inside of every 20, 30, 40-year-old man or woman who has dealt with that trauma as a child. And if we can help them release that, people ask me all the time, how can you go face to face with guys like that are selling children and not have them see the anger in your eyes? And my answer surprises them. I tell them I have compassion. You can't have compassion for somebody like they're selling you an 8-year-old. Now, I will do everything in my power to ensure they never hurt another child again. But what I wish more than everything is if I had a time machine where I could go back a year, 5 years, 10 years, and take them back before they ever hurt a child and figure out what it was they were missing in their life. What kind of tools we could give them to shed their trauma so that they never pass it on. If we could do that, we could have saved millions of children. Now, we don't have a time machine, but we do have hundreds of millions of people, kids in their adolescence, that we can give them the help that they need. So we've put together tools, we're putting together workshops, and that's the forward direction moving forward. And the girls have been working full time and redoing a lot of the tools that we have. So anyway, sorry, I was doing this questions and answers. I'm just sitting here talking. So any questions?
What were some of the reasons that this film was so delayed for 5 years? And then now that we know or are more aware of the message that this film is great, how should we be doing more than just donating money for this thing?
Great question. So his questions were these. Number 1, why did it take 5 years after we finished it for it to come out? And number 2, what can we do now besides just donate money? So those are great questions. So question number 1, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. Hollywood did not want this movie to come out. Okay, Tim and I went to Sony and Lionsgate and Paramount early on with the story, and we had some verbal offers that were pretty big for the rights on the story. But our lawyers said no. Those guys in these contracts say that they have the ability to change anything that they want to change. They could put me and Tim in a bed in the middle of the movie, and we couldn't do anything about it, right? And they could have tabled it for 10 years and never done anything with it. So we decided we would do it privately. So I funded the pre-production. All of that stuff was privately funded. I was the first money in to make that happen. And then we brought in the Waltons, the Walmart family, the Carlos Slim family together with me to make that happen. And then even after that, after we had it all filmed, then we had people like Disney that almost crushed us, because Fox International had a few $1 million invested with us, and when they got bought out by Disney, and their goal was to be the distributor and take it big. And they got bought out, and Disney's like, nope, we have nothing to do with that. We want all of our money back right now, and it almost crushed us. We had to come up with a bunch more money. And then we go out to Amazon and to Netflix, and everything gets shut down. Every single time we brought in guys that could be potential distributors, boom, Hollywood shut us down. So the only way to get this message out was in a grassroots movement. And the perfect venue for that is Angel Studios, because that's how they operate, is on a grassroots. It is good people passing the message on with what they did with The Chosen and some others. So there's the answer of why it didn't come out. We fought for a long time, and it's a blessing from God. This was, I believe, divine intervention that this all happened the way that it is. Now the next question was, what do we do next? Because yes, a lot of people just say, okay, well, I don't just want to just write a check. Yeah, there are a lot of foundations out there that are actually doing the work. There are others that aren't. You know, I made a hard separation because I had philosophical differences on that subject with who I'd been working with for about 5 years there. And I won't go into details there, but just understand it's important that you take a look at where the money is going if you are going to donate the money. I think that's super important for you to see. There are a lot of other things that you can do to get involved. Here's what I'm hoping. Everybody in this room, because of the fact that now you know where it's coming from, chances are there's somebody on your block or somebody in your family that has the potential of passing on his or her trauma to children. Be aware of that. Don't send your kids over to get babysat at the neighbors. Be very aware overnight. Be very aware of who's in your house and who's with your children. On a social media standpoint, we've had multiple operations that we found that the traffickers were bringing in international children by finding 13, 14-year-old girls that were there on vacation that their parents weren't thinking, and they sent them to this, beach town vacation, and they're posting on their social media, hey, we're here in Cancun, and whatever else, and these traffickers are connecting with them saying, hey, I'm a guide, I can take you out, and boom, they drug them, they take their passport, take their phone, and they're involved in the system. So don't think that this is all, if you've got a good home and a healthy house, don't be living in fear thinking your kids are going to go get snatched off the street. But don't be taking them down to third world countries or letting them go play on their own without your supervision. And be very careful about what's going on in terms of that generational trauma that's happening inside of our own homes. Now, one thing you can do from a promotional standpoint, everybody, when you leave, go out in front of the poster, the Sound of Freedom poster, and get a selfie in front of it, get a picture in front of it, post it on your social media, tag Sound of Freedom movie, tag the Child Liberation Foundation. My wife is standing here in the white. She's, raise your hand, sweetheart. And she's the executive director of the Child Liberation Foundation. Now, shameless plug, we met in Haiti. I think I touched on this just a little bit, but she was donating her time at the orphanage in Haiti when I was in 8 different times on some rescue missions. And unfortunately, I was actually at a funeral for one of our agents when I met her, but she's got a heart of gold, so connect with her out in front. Question?
Are you intimating, do you think prosecution helps? Should you prosecute? Were the people who are brought in, are they party prosecute? Are they back out on the streets?
When we go into a country, so the question is, are the prosecutors doing their job, right? And does that help? When we go into country, what we say is, listen, we will do all the work, we will pay for everything, and we will give you guys all the credit. Nobody will even know that we're involved. Everybody think that we're arrested. All we ask is that the bad guys stay in jail for good. They don't get around your system. And number 2, we have full access to the children, getting them rehabilitated and back to their families. Now, I will say there's been a number of operations, including this one, that the justice system failed and they got out a lot sooner than they were supposed to.
Is prosecution going forward in this country?
U.S. prosecution has gotten a lot better. Here's when I first started 10 years ago on that first mission, if you were an American, and feel free to leave anytime, don't feel you have to sit and whatever, but if you're an American and you go to Thailand and you rape a 13-year-old in Thailand, you have to be prosecuted under Thai law unless we could prove that you made the decision on U.S. soil to go there and do that. So those laws were things that our Attorney General, Sean Reyes, and others helped to push to change those laws with Congress so that now Now, if you commit that crime in any country, you not only can be prosecuted there, you're prosecuted here as well. And that's a big win. You know, if you go shoplifting in Thailand, I can't prosecute you in the US for that. That's a Thai law that you're breaking. This is an international law according to US law. So that was a big win for us. Other questions? Yeah?
Since the unaccompanied children have been coming across the border, Health and Human Services can't locate 85,000 children.
That's a really good point. So if you guys didn't hear that, 85,000 children are unaccounted for here in the US because of our open border policy. I'm just going to tell you this. Fortunately, I think that most of this room leans the same way I do, but I don't care if you're left or right. The border situation is not a political situation. It's a human trafficking situation. And here's what's happening. Are you ready for this? A lot of these unaccompanied minors, they're sent across the border unaccompanied. It's super easy to get them across now, and all they need is a phone number of somebody that's going to be their sponsor here in the US. There's no background checks on these sponsors. This sponsor could very easily be a pimp in Chicago, right? And so this kid comes across, he's got the phone number of the pimp in Chicago. The Homeland Security agents who pick him up say, oh, there's your phone number, here's your sponsor that's here, let's call him. And on your US tax dollars that you're paying, that child is now flown to his, quote, sponsor. And we have no way of knowing if that's a healthy family or if that's somebody that's going to be trafficking that child. This is the first time in the history of America that your tax dollars, I can prove it, are being used to facilitate trafficking of children. Go ahead. This is the world we're living in. This is just scratching the surface of really what's going on. This kind of stuff goes all the way to the top. And it's not a right thing or a left thing. I'm telling you, there's people on both sides of the aisle that are involved in this crap. So, you know, what we have to do is just like what happened with this movie, where it's a grassroots effort saying, no, I don't care if Hollywood doesn't want it out or not. I'm going to pass this on to my friends. I'm going to make a movement out of this thing. That's what needs to happen to take down this corrupt system. So I'm not advocating pulling out your arms, but I'm saying we need to take a careful look at who's representing us and why.
I just want to thank you for everything you've done and for bringing light to the darkness. World.
Thank you. Thank you. I will tell you this. I've got a book coming out this year called Are You Listening? Not Are You Listening, but Are You Listening? Every single undercover rescue that I did, in finding the children, we didn't find them following logic and protocol. We followed this, and we were led to exactly where they were. I was asked to come to Haiti with Glenn Beck, and he was wanting to film some of the children that were rescued in some of the orphanages. And we go pick up Glenn, and we go to Haiti, and we're there, and we're filming some of the orphanages. And it's Saturday night. The plane's leaving at 6 a.m. the next morning, and Tim comes to me, and he says, Paul, he said, I've had teams on the ground for the last 5 days, and they haven't found any traffickers. Not any really good leads. You're the best I have. Could you go out with them? And I knew that meant I'd get no sleep that night. And, you know, at the time, I'd worked on some really great cases, and I went out that night, and he had a bunch of Navy SEALs and some big guy, and they're tattooed up, and they've got their earrings, and, you know, they're big dudes, right? They're obviously get shit done, like you know. And I'm me. I'm 6 foot nothing, right? 180 nothing. And it was about 2 a.m. And I said, guys, can I take lead? Are you good with that? And they said, yeah, Tim said you're really good at this. I want to see what you do. I said, okay. I need you to follow exactly what I say. First things first, I need you to understand that I believe in God. I said, most people believe in a supreme being. Some people call him the universe or Jehovah or even Allah or whatever else. I said, God exists and cares more about these children than you and I ever could, and knows exactly where they are. So if you're okay with it, I'm going to start out by asking for some help. So here we are, downtown Port-au-Prince, Haiti, the darkest, most voodoo-infested place on the planet, and we take off our hats and offer up a prayer. I said, now I need you to understand how I see fear and faith. I said, most people think that faith is going to church and asking God to fix things in their life that they don't believe are going to be fixed. That's not faith. Faith is unwavering conviction. Okay? John chapter 1 says, ask in faith, nothing wavering. The problem is that most people have a hard time with unwavering conviction about anything. Should I marry this woman? Should I go to this new job? Should I whatever else? Now, I told these guys, this is not a religious conversation, but this is a relationship that I have with my Creator, period. I said, it's also important to understand that fear and faith can't exist in the same person at the same time. The reason behind it is in some way they're the same power. People that believe bad things are going to happen actually attract it, and people that believe good things are going to happen actually attract it. I said, because of the fact that I have unwavering conviction, because here's the thing, I don't care if God is a mountain or a man or a woman or anything, there's not a higher power anywhere that's okay with an 8-year-old being raped, period. Right? So it's easy for me to have unwavering conviction that I'm going to be led to where they are. And these Navy SEALs are like, okay, dude, whatever. Right? I said, okay, just drive. I'm just listening. I said, okay, stop right there. He said, that black alley, the motorcycle gang, yeah, right there. He said, what are you going to do? I said, that guy knows something. And this happens on every rescue mission. You can feel the ones. You can feel it. When you're dealing with children being sold, I think God looks down at what we're doing in our business life. He's like, okay, you adults deal with that. He sees what's happening with these children. He says, hell no. If I've got good people willing to do something, I'm going to pave the way, right? And so we're driving there, we stop, and the motorcycle gang guy, he says, what are you going to do? I said, that guy knows something. I said, in fact, and he says, well, we got to survey the area. He said, no, he's going to be gone. He said, this is a dangerous area. I said, yeah, but we don't have time for that. I said, in fact, you guys are going to intimidate him. You need to stay in the van. I'm going to go talk to him myself. Me, all right? He says, are you stupid, Paul? I said, look, I told him, I says, I'll buy you pink panties when we get home. I said, I don't have 2 weeks to find out who's selling children. We've got to find these guys. And so I get out, I walk up to him, and he pulls up his shirt, and there's a gun right here in his shorts. And I'm just listening. I pull out a $100 bill, and I hand it to him. Didn't even say a word. He says, what's that for? I says, that's for you. You keep it. I said, I got another one for you if you can help me with something. I said, I got a friend. He's coming in over Super Bowl Sunday. He's got a lot of money. He likes 10-year-olds. You get me in touch with somebody who can provide what he wants, I'll give you another $100. He goes, I got somebody right. I knew he did. Makes a phone call, gets me in touch with this owner of this club. If you watch the documentary, Operation Toussaint, it covers the rescue of those 34 children. Now, we didn't have cameras undercover doing all this stuff, but that shows when we actually did the rescue of those kids when we found them. And that all came from simply listening. So I'm not going to take any credit. I'll give the credit to my guys, and I'll give credit to my Creator, because that's the only way that we're going to win this war. But if somebody really wants to get involved, we're building healing retreats. The girls are working on some things called Liberating Wings, where we're taking each of the safe houses of the children that we've worked with, and we're building wings, an extension on the safe house specifically for healing. And we're working with a lot of different holistic healing, with sound bowl healing, and teaching them art therapy and a lot of different things, and teaching them trades as well, so that they don't end up going back into that and thinking that's where they need to earn money in the future, and giving them the education they need. So a lot of good stuff there. I told Trevor I'd come and speak and share, and I'm just super grateful that you guys came out and We're willing to come and support what we're doing here and support this mission. So I'll be outside answering individual questions unless anybody else has any more in here. But hold on to your kids, love them, teach them, and together I believe we're going to eradicate child trafficking and liberate humanity. So thank you.